Hey, welcome to a new video. The Third Reich, a regime that held Europe in an iron grip, was not only a period of unprecedented terror, but also of enigmatic mysteries that continue to fascinate the world. From secret operations to hidden treasures, advanced technologies, and unexplained disappearances, the Nazis have left behind a trail of questions begging to be answered. Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we start, also like the video.
The V3 cannon, also known as the London gun, was a super cannon developed by the Nazis during World War II. This thing wasn't just any ordinary cannon, it was enormous, and the idea was to use it as a mega long-range shooter. Imagine a gigantic cannon capable of firing projectiles at high speeds over vast distances. The V3 cannon was intended to bombard London from two large bunkers in the northern France. It was a frightening idea, and the intention was to terrify the city's population. It was developed by a clever German engineer named August Konders, who presented his idea to the Minister of War Production. Hitler was immediately enthusiastic and pumped a lot of money into the project. Building this cannon involved a lot of digging and forced labors in a massive underground bunker in northern France. But ultimately, before the cannon could hit London, the launch facilities were destroyed by Allied bombing raids. The V3 cannon was never used as intended. However, two similar cannons were used to bombard Luxembourg from December 1944 to February 1945. The Atlantic Wall was a gigantic coastal defense structure built by the Nazis during World War II. It was like an enormous wall all along the coastlines of the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, from Norway to the Spanish border. This wall was hard to miss, as it stretched more than 3,100 miles. What was in this wall? Well, concrete bunkers, fortifications, and even natural obstacles, like cliffs and rocks were used. The goal was to create an almost impenetrable fortress that could be defended by relatively few troops. The wall was supposed to protect key ports, as well as military and industrial targets. Building this mega wall cost a fortune in resources and manpower, and more than 1.4 million workers were involved. Some were forced laborers from concentration camps. More than 656,000 square miles of concrete and 1.2 million tons of steel went into this project. But despite all the efforts, the wall was breached by the Allies on D-Day, which was June 6, 1944, during the Normandy invasion. The Autobahn is a high-speed limited-access highway system, serving as the basis for the first modern national freeway network. It was planned in Germany in the early 1930s and expanded into a national freeway network, totaling 2,108 kilometers by 1942. After World War II, West Germany embarked on an ambitious reconstruction of the system, and in 1989, the West German system was merged with the East German system. It was one of the longest freeway networks in the world, with a total length of about 8,075 miles, and it was also known for the absence of a general speed limit. The Autobahn played a significant role in German history, including its use as a major asset during World War II. The German Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, which involved massive coordinated attacks, also used the Autobahn for rapid troop movements. And as for transportation, another incredible thing the Nazis built was the Volkswagen. Its mass production was initiated by the German government under the leadership of Adolf Hitler and the National Socialist Party. The goal was to create an affordable but speedy vehicle that could be sold relatively cheap for about $140. To provide the design for this people's car, Hitler enlisted the help of the Austrian and German automotive engineer, Ferdinand Porsche.
As the advancing Allied forces took over German airports and factories in central Germany, they stumbled upon the remnants of a bat-like jet bomber. Covered in carbon and plywood, it was designed to be harder to detect by radar, making it perhaps the world's first stealth aircraft. Its unique shape, resembling a mix between a Star Wars snowspeeder and a U-2 spy plane, featured wings that were bent back at a sharp angle. This design allowed the aircraft to evade radar installations and fly unnoticed by enemy observers. The Horton H-9 not only possessed stealth capabilities, but also exhibited exceptional performance. The speed and agility of the jet fighter made it a formidable aircraft that surpassed its counterparts. The Horton brothers, the creators of this innovative aircraft, envisioned its potential not just as a fighter, but also as a bomber. They hoped to equip the plane with a 1-ton bomb, and even consider arming it with unguided rockets to attack enemy bombers.
The Cougal Panzer is a unique and enigmatic armored vehicle from World War II. It's one of the most unusual tanks ever built, characterized by its spherical shape. It has a minimalist design on the outside, consisting of a cylindrical body in the middle where one person could fit. Two hemispherical wheels are placed on both sides of the central part and serve as its means of propulsion. The vehicle has thin armor plating of approximately 5 millimeters, although the exact composition of the armor is unknown. However, why this vehicle was built and what its purpose was remains a subject of debate. The most common theory is that it was likely used as an experimental reconnaissance vehicle, though its low speed and limited visibility raise questions about the effectiveness of that role. There's also one example of this vehicle that exists today. It's displayed at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Moscow, Russia, where it's listed as exhibition number 37. It's speculated that this vehicle was captured by the Red Army. Access and photography inside this vehicle is strictly prohibited, making it difficult to verify the internal layout and components of the vehicle.
Nazis were fascinated by secret societies, UFOs, and mystical energy sources. If extraterrestrials visited ancient Sumeria, why couldn't the Nazis find them? A book titled The Coming Race was anonymously published in May 1871. The Coming Race revolves around a narrator who discovers a hidden underground world inhabited by angelic beings. He befriends one who leads him out through a city reminiscent of ancient Egyptian architecture. This society thrives thanks to advanced technology, with their most powerful tool being a ubiquitous substance called vril. This fluid is a latent energy source that the spiritually advanced inhabitants can harness through the training of their willpower, depending on their genetic makeup. This mastery grants them access to extraordinary power that they can control at will. The association of the Black Sun with the occult can be traced back to a German novel from 1991 titled The Black Sun of Tashi Lunpo by the pseudonymous author Russell McLeod. The symbol of the Black Sun represents a mystical energy source believed to rejuvenate the Aryan race.
The bouncing bomb was invented by the British engineer Barnes Wallis. He conceived the idea by experimenting with bouncing marbles over a tank in his backyard. The purpose of the bouncing bomb was to attack and destroy German dams, particularly those in the Ruhr Valley, which were essential to German industry and infrastructure. The bomb was designed to skip across the water and explode underwater, creating massive floods and damage to water supplies and hydroelectric plants. It was first used in Operation Chastis by the Royal Air Force on May 16th to 17th in 1943. The mission was carried out by the 617th Squadron, also known as the Dam Busters. The squadron used specially built cylindrical bombs, codenamed Upkeep, which were dropped from a low altitude and high speed. The bombs were designed to skip across the water and sink against the dam wall, and then explode underwater, causing the dam to breach and flood the surrounding area. This attack was seen as a severe blow to the German war machine, and boosted morale among Allied forces.
Nazi Germany was at the forefront of early interest in flying saucers due to their purported strategic importance. A curious photo from World War II shows a barely visible saucer-shaped object high above Prague airport. The photo is said to have been taken by inventor Joseph Epp. Among the alleged prototypes created by the Nazis was the Flugkreisel designed by engineer Rudolf Schriever. During the war, both Allied and enemy personnel reported various aerial anomalies. German engineers are also believed to have developed spacecraft, including a flying saucer named Hanu, aimed at securing victory for Hitler's Germany. Interestingly, this relates to the UFO crash in Roswell. The Roswell military base was known for housing bombers capable of transporting nuclear weapons and other highly secret projects. In the 1960 book The Morning of the Magicians by Louis Pauwels and Jacques Bergier, Berlin's Vril Society is mentioned. The author suggests that the society may have made contact with an extraterrestrial race and dedicated themselves to creating spacecraft for interstellar travel. Reportedly, the Vril Society collaborated with the Thule Society and the Nazi Party on the development of a series of flying disc prototypes.
The sun gun, also known as the helio beam, is a theoretical orbital weapon proposed during World War II. The sun gun is a concept where a concave mirror mounted on a satellite is used to focus sunlight onto a small area of the Earth's surface, potentially causing harmful effects due to intense heat. This idea was developed by the German physicist Hermann Oberth in 1929. He envisioned a space station located at approximately 5,095 miles above the Earth, equipped with a large reflector, which was made of metallic sodium. The proposed reflector, with an area of 3.5 square miles, would be capable of concentrating sunlight to generate enough heat to boil an ocean or ignite a city. During World War II, a group of German scientists expanded Oberth's concept of the sun gun at the German artillery, proving ground in Hillsborough. The Nazis also claimed that if given 50 to 100 years, they could have built the mass destruction weapon. During World War II, officials involved in the Manhattan Project were convinced they were in a race with Germany to develop the atomic bomb. The foundation for nuclear weapons, known as nuclear fission, was discovered in Berlin in December 1938. This revelation caused significant unrest in the United States, even though the war was still 10 months away. In April 1939, a secret conference in Berlin marked the beginning of the German atomic weapons program. As a result, the Ministry of Education launched an official uranium research program and banned the export of uranium to other countries. This occurred 5 months before President Franklin D. Roosevelt received Albert Einstein's letter warning him of the potential for nuclear weapons. The wreck of a boat carrying barrels of heavy water for German nuclear scientists was found under a Norwegian lake.
In 1944, Norwegian Special Forces sank a German hydro ferry, but until now it was unclear whether the ship contained the essential ingredients for Hitler's nuclear bomb. Recently, tests confirmed that at least 18 barrels found within the wreck contained heavy water, a crucial substance for controlling the nuclear fission process. Heavy water played a vital role in the German nuclear program, and its loss had a decisive impact. It effectively halted their reactor program.
The Krummelhof, which means curved barrel in English, was a unique addition developed by Germany for one of its rifles. Let's further explore the incredible invention. The Krummelhof was designed as a barrel attachment with a curved shape, allowing soldiers to shoot around corners from a safe position without exposing themselves to return fire. It included a periscope sight and a mirror to enable the shooter to maintain a standard grip and cheek while aiming. It was primarily intended for use at close range, such as in urban combat or trench warfare, where soldiers needed to hit targets without direct line of sight. Several variants of this were produced, with several degrees of curvature, including a 30-degree, 45-degree, 60-degree, and even 90-degree. However, the 30-degree variant was the only one produced in significant numbers. The Krummelhof is often seen as an example of Germany's late war obsession with developing unconventional and impractical weapons. Although the concept of shooting around corners was intriguing, the limitations and technical difficulties prevented it from becoming an effective and widely used weapon.
Wiget First, also known as Vineyard First, is a secret construction project initiated in 1944. Its aim was to create an underground factory complex in a forest in Upper Bavaria, Germany. The primary purpose of this project was to produce jet engines. By that time, Allied forces had already gained control over German airspace. The underground factory network was conceived as a means to ensure the production of the Me-62, even in the face of Allied dominance. In total, 10,000 workers were employed for the project, of which 8,500 were forced laborers and prisoners from a concentration camp network. More than 3,000 of these workers lost their lives due to overwork, malnutrition, and brutal treatment by the SS. The forced laborers endured harsh conditions, working 10 to 12 hours a day, with tasks such as moving gravel and working with concrete. Those who became ill or too weak to work were transported to Auschwitz.
Flak Turm, also known as Flack Towers, were massive concrete fortresses built during World War II in various cities. They combined anti-aircraft guns with shelters for civilians, and constructing a Flak Tower was a colossal project. For example, the Berlin Flak Tower cost approximately 90 million marks to build and required about 800 men for construction. Cities like Berlin, Hamburg, and Vienna had multiple Flak Tower complexes, each consisting of several towers. Other cities, such as Stuttgart and Frankfurt, also erected smaller Flak Towers at strategic points. These towers were equipped with a combination of large and small caliber anti-aircraft guns, including 128mm cannons and 20mm guns. The towers had overlapping fields of fire, creating a dense network of anti-aircraft fire to defend the cities. Some Flak Towers also had additional facilities, such as hospitals, radio stations, and storage spaces for art treasures. During the Battle of Berlin, residents of Flak Towers formed their own communities. Up to 30,000 Berliners sought refuge in one tower during the battle. Flak Towers were also among the last places to surrender to the Red Army during the fall of Berlin.
During a secret visit to Finland on the occasion of Marshal Karl Gustav Mannerheim's 75th birthday, Adolf Hitler's SelfDeception was accidentally captured on a secret audio recording. Without Hitler's knowledge, a sound technician named Thor Dahmen managed to record the first 11 minutes of a private conversation between Hitler and Mannerheim. This recording is the only known instance where Hitler speaks in an informal and off-the-record manner. On the tape, Hitler dominates the conversation, while others at the table, including Mannerheim, President Risto Ryti, and General Feldmarschall Wilhelm Keitel, remain largely silent. Hitler discusses the failure of Operation Barbarossa, Italian defeats in North Africa, the invasions of Yugoslavia and Greece, his surprise at the Soviet Union's tank production capacity, and his concerns about Romanian oil extraction. In the conversation, he explains to Mannerheim why the attack on Russia did not go as planned. He admits he was not well prepared and underestimated the strength of Russia. Hitler was also caught lying about the number of tanks in the Red Army. After 11 minutes, Hitler's SS guards discovered Dahmen's recording and threatened him.
The Hanu Project has become a source of many myths and fictional stories, often associated with secret Nazi bases on the dark side of the moon, or encounters with extraterrestrial beings. There's various theories claiming that this project revolved around the development and testing of advanced tech, including anti-gravity engines and flying saucers. It's believed that if the Germans had completed these weapons in time, they could have had a significant impact on the outcome of the war. Some theories suggest that the project was a flying saucer secured by the Americans during Operation High Jump in 1947. It may have been linked to the UFO incident in Roswell, New Mexico. The Hanu Project also garnered attention in popular culture, including books, model kits, video games, and movies. It's also appeared in video games, such as X-Plane 11 and Warplane's World War II Dogfight.
During World War II, intriguing stories emerged about a local farmer who was reportedly summoned in the middle of the night to assist SS officers in dumping truckloads of heavy boxes into a lake. These boxes were said to contain gold and secret Nazi files. Such eyewitness accounts sparked a sort of gold rush, as divers dreamed of discovering a fortune hidden beneath the lake's surface. However, many who ventured into the treacherous waters drowned and were never seen again. In recent years, Gerhard Zauner discovered a ring at the bottom of an Austrian lake named Lake Toplitz, with Adolf Hitler's name engraved on it. He has been searching for nearly 6 decades for Hitler's stolen art collection, reportedly scattered across Europe. In 1959, he found a 72 million zlotys in counterfeit British money from the Nazi era during a dive in Lake Toplitz. His personal collection now includes objects, memorabilia, weapons, and explosives used during World War II. Rumors have it that many SS Nazi generals disposed of their belongings in Lake Toplitz to hide their past after the war.
Here we see Adolf Hitler's plan to resurrect a forest from Germanic folklore. However, the Juro Monsters project was not only about restoring ancient forests, but also about reintroducing long-extinct species. It was all part of the Nazis' insane vision to establish a 1,000-year Reich that would not only dominate humanity, but also nature itself. Nazi architects of this bizarre dream designed blueprints for Aryan settlements and vast hunting parks exclusively reserved for Aryan animals. German top scientists under the leadership of Heinrich Himmler initiated an ambitious program of genetic manipulation to alter the natural order, both in wild and in domesticated species. Behind this project were 2 zoologist brothers, Lutz and Heinz Heck, who were obsessed with the idea of resurrecting long-lost species. The Heck brothers set their sights on the Białowieża forest in Poland. This forest was a refuge for wolf packs, as well as the rare Eurasian lynx and the majestic European moose, and one of the last bastions of the European bison. How far the Nazis had progressed in their quest to control nature and alter evolution remained shrouded in mystery. As the war engulfed Europe and the Nazi regime collapsed, the documentation and progress of the project became scattered and lost.
One secret they definitely don't want you to know is one of the times they failed. Operation Mince Me stands as a remarkable example of Allied strategic deception during World War II. Its goal was to divert the attention of German forces from the actual Allied plan to land on the island of Sicily in 1943. In the early hours of April 30, 1943, the body of a fictitious British officer named Major Martin was released into the sea from the British submarine HMS Seraph. The body was left afloat just over half a mile off the southern coast of Spain. Spanish authorities retrieved the body, and the secret documents it carried were discreetly opened, photographed, and then passed to German intelligence officers in Spain. The Germans promptly reacted to the false information. They doubled their troop strength on Sardinia, believing it to be the target of the Allied invasion. Numerous German divisions were relocated to Greece and the Balkans. Meanwhile, the actual Allied invasion of Sicily took place on July 9, 1943, catching the German defenders completely by surprise. The success of the operation became evident when the Allies quickly and decisively conquered the island in just over a month.
The Landkreuzer P-1000 Rot was a proposed design for a super heavy tank during World War II. This tank design is said to have been proposed in June 1942 by Edward Grote, a director at Krupp. The plan was to build a 1,000-ton tank, much heavier than the Panzer, which was at 188 tons, the heaviest tank to ever been built. It was envisioned that the tank would have a fully tracked chassis and would utilize main gun turrets. Additionally, the tank was proposed to include a garage for 2 engines and a sickbay. The project received approval from Adolf Hitler, who showed interest in its development. However, the tank was ultimately cancelled in early 1943. This vehicle was seen as a super heavy tank capable of performing complex tasks on the front lines and potentially altering the course of history.
During World War II, the Allies successfully recovered a significant amount of objects and treasures. Yet, a small percentage of these items remained untraceable, reportedly hidden in tunnels, mines, and alpine lakes around the southern borders of Germany. Many intriguing stories circulate about the existence of Nazi treasures in this region, where Hitler's loyal followers planned to establish an alpine fortress. Some of these stories are based on alleged eyewitness accounts from the war's final days. One specific tale tells of a mule caravan that trekked up an alpine mountain at night. Witnesses claim to have seen a column of mules carrying what appeared to be a secret transport of hundreds of gold bars worth millions of dollars. The secrecy surrounding this operation, however, did not last long, as rumors quickly spread. Ultimately, American troops recovered the gold. Nonetheless, rumors and stories about other buried treasures and gold that were never found persist. According to local legends, some people experienced sudden wealth and prosperity after the war, further fueling speculation about hidden caches.
The Silber Vogal was a design for a rocket-powered suborbital bomb aircraft created by Eugen Songer and Irene Brett in the late 1930s for the Nazi Germany. It was conceived as part of a project which aimed to develop long-range bombers capable of reaching the United States from Europe. It was intended to be a suborbital aircraft, capable of flying at high altitudes at extreme speeds, and it would be powered by a rocket engine. The plan was to launch the aircraft from a 2-mile-long monorail track, accelerated by a rocket-powered sled. Once the guide rail ended, the main rocket engine would ignite, propelling the aircraft to its maximum velocity. The aircraft was intended to glide back to Earth after reaching peak altitude, enabling reuse and cost savings. Despite the design, a physical prototype was never built. The project remained largely on paper, and the end of World War II brought an end to the further development. Believe it or not, the design and concepts contributed to the development of later spaceplanes. For example, the regeneratively cooled rocket engine became a lasting feature in the design of future rocket engines.
In April 1945, during World War II, the top-secret Allosos mission, aimed at gathering intelligence and thwarting German nuclear research, made a significant discovery. They recovered 659 uranium cubes from a field near a laboratory in Haigerloch, Germany. This laboratory, hidden beneath a castle, was overseen by physicist Werner Heisenberg. Earlier in 2019, scientists led by Heisenberg had created a nuclear test reactor using a distinctive arrangement of 664 uranium cubes strung together by aircraft cables, creating an ominous chandelier. Allied forces transported the uranium cubes found at the site to Paris and later to the United States. However, about 400 of these cubes remain unaccounted, and their fate remains shrouded in mystery to this day. The majority of these cubes are still missing. The recovery of these uranium cubes by the Allies play a crucial role in preventing the Nazis from succeeding in developing nuclear weapons. The outcome of World War II could have been drastically different had they succeeded.
Adolf Hitler didn't have a plan A or B. He had plans from A to Z. Here's the final plan, the Z plan. This was Hitler's ambitious program for expanding the Navy, aimed at building a fleet that could rival the British Royal Navy. The plan included the construction of several H-class battleships. Hitler approved the Z plan in January 1939, proposing the construction of approximately 800 ships between 1939 and 1947. The program was supposed to be completed in 1945, and the main force of the Z plan consisted of 6 H-class battleships. These battleships were intended to be the core of Hitler's Z plan to refit and expand the German Navy. The battleships were designed to be larger and more powerful. However, the planned naval program was not far advanced at the start of World War II, and the construction of the H-class battleships didn't progress significantly. Therefore, none of these battleships were ever completed or commissioned.
In the late 1930s, the Nazis showed interest in Antarctica and organized an expedition to claim part of the continent for Germany. The expedition was carried out by Schwabenland, a ship equipped with a steam catapult and 2 Dornier Wall seaplanes. These planes were used to conduct extensive photographic surveys, covering an area of 373,000 square miles, or 600,000 square kilometers. Operation High Jump took place during the Antarctic summer of 1946 to 1947, while Operation Windmill occurred during the season of 1947 to 1948. Operation High Jump included the largest group ever deployed to Antarctica, consisting of 4,700 men, as well as 13 ships and 33 aircraft. The main goal of these operations were to prepare and train in cold warfare. The main goals of these operations were to prepare for and train in cold weather warfare techniques and polar conditions. It's believed that just before World War II, a German base was established in Antarctica. During the war, the base expanded and regularly received supplies via submarine deliveries of secret weapons. According to these stories, the British attempted to destroy the base in a failed raid by the Special Air Service in 1945. Subsequently, Operation High Jump was launched to attack the base, but reportedly the American troops were driven back by the deployment of secret weapons, often described as flying saucers. The story ends with the base's destruction by nuclear bombs in 1958.
The Panther Tank was a medium tank developed by Nazi Germany during World War II. It was intended as a counterpart to the Soviet T-34 and as a replacement for the Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks. The Panther is often considered one of the best tanks of World War II due to its excellent combination of firepower, mobility, and protection. It featured sloped armor, a powerful main gun, and good mobility. The Panther saw action for the first time during the Battle of Kursk in 1943. However, the Panther tank had some issues. Early models suffered from mechanical and reliability problems, and more Panthers were lost due to engine issues than enemy action during the Battle of Kursk. The tank also had a fundamental problem with the gunner's sight, making it difficult to quickly locate targets. Its combat capabilities influenced the development of heavier tanks by the Allies. It's noteworthy that the Panther tank was captured by enemy troops on certain occasions. Russian forces captured several Panthers and used them against the Nazis on the Eastern Front. However, they were abandoned due to their complexity and difficulty in repairing them.
At the end of World War II, the U-boat U-530 surrendered in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It was under the command of a young lieutenant. It took much longer than expected to reach Argentina, arriving only in July 1945, with the logbook missing and the deck gun thrown overboard. This was remarkable since the war had already ended in May 1945. Most U-boats, like the U-530, had their deck guns removed after 1943. Yet the U-530 had a deck gun installed during its last patrol. The enduring question has always been why it took so long for U-530 to reach Argentina, and what it did during that time, but the crew refused to discuss these matters. It's speculated that U-530 may have been involved in transporting high-ranking Nazis to Argentina. It's also possible that the submarine made stops along the Argentine coast before surrendering. This theory seems plausible, as the journey shouldn't have taken longer than 6 to 8 weeks, even if the U-boat used its snorkel and traveled underwater throughout the trip. U-530's last patrol left Germany in March 1945, but only arrived in Buenos Aires on July 10th. This exceptionally long patrol, which lasted about 110 days, is quite unusual.
The Z3 computer was a German computer designed by Konrad Zuse in 1938 and completed in 1941. It's considered the world's first functional programmable computer. The Z3 was a significant milestone in the history of computing because it was the first fully operational electromechanical computer. It used approximately 2,300 relays and performed floating point calculations in non-binary arithmetic, with a word length of 22 bits. The Z3 was not a true electronic computer, but rather an electromechanical one. One major limitation was the lack of conditional branching, meaning it had to speculatively compute all possible outcomes of a calculation to be Turing complete. Despite this limitation, the Z3 provided a practical instruction set for technical applications in the 1940s. The Z3 was mainly used for aerodynamic calculations, but was unfortunately destroyed during a bombing raid on Berlin in late 1943. However, a fully functional replica of the Z3 was built in 1961, and it's now permanently exhibited at a museum in Munich.
During World War II, both the German and Allied soldiers relied on the use of performance-enhancing drugs to maintain their endurance. German troops were given a form of methamphetamine in pill form, which was widely distributed among soldiers before the successful invasion of France in 1940. By that time, the drug was widespread among Luftwaffe pilots, which was to prepare them for demanding requirements of long missions or to combat insomnia and hunger. During the Blitz, a ruthless Nazi bombing campaign against Great Britain from April to June 1940, about 35 million tablets were sent to 3 million German soldiers, sailors, and pilots. These soldiers covered extensive distances, pushing the front lines forward without sleep or rest. Soldiers were then kept awake for long periods, enhancing their performance under grueling conditions and alleviating the effects of shell shock and PTSD.
The Fritz X and Heinzel HS-293 were some of the first precision-guided weapons developed by Nazi Germany. They made their debut around the time of the Allied attack on Solano in September 1943. These radio-controlled weapons posed a new challenge to fleet defense and scorned hits on Allied ships, opening a new chapter in modern warfare. The Heinzel HS-293 was a radio-controlled glide bomb with a rocket motor. Designed as a guided anti-ship missile, it used an autopilot to maintain a straight course, and could be launched from a bomber at a sufficient distance to keep the aircraft out of reach of anti-aircraft fire. A bombarder guided the missile with a joystick and a radio control. The Fritz X was an armored guided anti-ship bomb. The Fritz X carried bombers, and was guided to its target by a crew member in the mothership, using a joystick. These weapons were designed to be dropped from an aircraft and guided to their targets, making them forerunners of today's smart bombs. In the mid-1920s, the Vril-Gesellschaft, a German organization deeply intertwined with Nazism, embarked on expeditions to Tibet. Their aim was to find evidence of the ancient Aryan ancestors who were reportedly descended from a race of Nordic aliens, who had made the inner Earth their home. Inspired by these beliefs, Adolf Hitler sought to establish a presence in Antarctica. In 1938, an expedition was sent to the continent in search of a hidden realm known as the Serpent World. The complex consisted of 7 levels of vast underground caves and tunnels. It was supposed to act as an extraterrestrial launching pad for missions within our galaxy. Reportedly, the inhabitants of this home even encouraged the Nazis to establish a colony alongside them. The purpose of this colony was to promote joint scientific and technological development between the Germans and the extraterrestrial beings. As World War II engulfed the planet, the Nazis began the construction of an impenetrable underwater fortress in Antarctica, known as Station 211. This fortress aimed to control the surrounding waters and serve as a relocation site for Heinrich Himmler's most secret projects. Among these projects were anti-gravity discs and advanced technologies such as the wonder weapon Die Glock.
In the final stages of World War II, as Nazi Germany faced the overwhelming power and production capacity of the Allies, the leadership focused on the development of wonder weapons, or Wunderwaffe, in a desperate attempt to turn their fate around. One of these daring projects was the concept of the sun cannon. The idea behind it was to harness and concentrate the power of the sun into a focused beam of intense heat and light, capable of bringing destruction from orbit. The basic principle behind the sun cannon is similar to using a magnifying glass to start a fire. When a magnifying glass is correctly positioned to capture the sun's rays, it can concentrate sunlight into a narrow, highly concentrated, and burning beam. The innovation involved designing an orbital platform that would collect and direct the sun's rays at a target on the ground. This orbiting space station could be repositioned in Earth's orbit to incinerate any chosen target. Cities like London, Moscow, and New York could have been reduced to ashes at the will of the Nazis. The devastating nature of this weapon made it virtually indefensible.
The creation of Fanta was the result of the trade embargo posed by the United States against Nazi Germany, making it difficult to export Coca-Cola syrup. Max Keith, the leader of Coca-Cola, decided to develop a new product, specifically for the German market, using only the ingredients available in Germany at that time. Thus, Fanta was created, using apple fibers and a byproduct of cheese, such as whey, as ingredients. It was introduced as a fruity drink made from whatever was available during the war. The invention was mainly driven by the need to preserve assets of the Coca-Cola company and keep local factories running under the wartime conditions. Fanta became a popular beverage among the German population and was seen as a point of national pride.
A Nazi program aimed at strengthening the German race with Aryan blood involved a group known as Leban Born children. These children were the offspring of carefully selected parents chosen for their physical characteristics, intended to breed Hitler's Aryan race, characterized by blue eyes and blonde hair. This chapter of history is still recent, with about 40 other children who grew up in the Nazi program supporting each other. When they came together, they shared stories about aunts who turned out to be their biological mothers, adopted parents who fell into alcoholism, and finding blood relatives. Some of these children were taken from present-day Ukraine by the Nazis, and sometimes told they were adopted. Most were taken away from parents in countries occupied by the Germans during World War II as toddlers. These children were then placed with German families to be raised according to the Nazi doctrine. Although some of the estimated 8,000 children born in Leban Born homes in Germany were raised by their biological mothers, many were entrusted to families of high-ranking SS officers.
The Olympic torch relay as we know it today originated in Nazi Germany. It was introduced for the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin and was used by the Nazi regime to promote their ideology and present a false image of peaceful Germany. The torch relay was a carefully orchestrated propaganda tool aimed at connecting Germany with ancient empires and creating a sense of historical continuity. This event was modeled after a similar event that took place in 80 BC in Athens. Karl Diem, a former German Olympian involved in organizing the Berlin Olympics, designed the relay to evoke a sense of ancient tradition and connect it with the current Nazi party. The idea resonated with Nazi propagandists, who used torch relays and rallies to attract mainly young Germans to the Nazi movement. The torch relay involved 3,422 torchbearers, with each bearer covering 3,280 feet, on the route from the site of the ancient Olympic Games in Olympia, Greece, to Berlin. As the torch was passed, it traversed various locations before reaching its final destination. The relay reached its climax with the lighting of the Olympic flame in the stadium, symbolizing the start of the Games.
In the late 1930s and early 1940s, the German Kriegsmarine had plans to meet the demands of Plan Z, which aimed to rearm and expand the Nazi German Navy. As part of their plan, monstrous super battleships were envisioned, collectively known as the H-class. However, these battleships were never given individual names, and are simply referred to as the H-class. The original design, known as H-39, called for the construction of 6 ships that were essentially enlarged versions of the Bismarck-class battleships, armed with enormous cannons. Later, designs like the H-41 featured even larger main guns, with 8 weapons. The final design, known as H-44, boasted a massive arsenal of even larger cannons. The earliest design studies for the battleship, coded as Battleship H, can be traced back to 1935. Hitler himself demanded weapons larger than those of any potential opponent, emphasizing the superiority of these battleships. However, the outbreak of war in September 1939 caused a halt in the construction of the H-class ships. It was expected that the work on the battleships would resume after a German victory in the war.
The Horten Ho 229 was a German prototype fighter bomber, designed by Reimar and Walter Horten during World War II. It's often known as the first stealth bomber due to its design features that made it less visible to radar. The Ho-229 was a flying wing aircraft, meaning it had no redundant control surfaces, which helped reduce air resistance and decrease visibility on radar. It was developed in response to German Air Ministry's requirements for a bomber capable of carrying 2,200 pounds of bombs over a distance of 621 miles at a speed of 621 miles per hour. Additionally, the aircraft could reach an altitude of 49,200 feet, and it was powered by 2 jet engines, featuring a delta-shaped wing. The Ho-229 was intended as a fast bomber, capable of carrying a significant payload over long distances. However, the aircraft was never put into service, and only a few prototypes were built. The reasons for not going into production are diverse and include the end of the war, as well as technical challenges and changing of priorities of the German Air Ministry. During World War II, Heinrich Himmler developed a plan known as Alpen Festung in November and December 1943. This plan involved retreating the German government and armed forces to an area extending from the southern Bavaria across western Austria to northern Italy. The concept of this plan served as an effective propaganda tool and military deception strategy applied by the Germans in the later stages of the war. Intelligence reports received by the Supreme Headquarters of the Allied Expeditionary Forces indicated that the Alpine region harbored supplies of food and military necessities accumulated over the preceding 6 months, as well as weapon production facilities. These reports suggested that Hitler could evade the Allies and cause significant difficulties for occupying forces throughout Germany from this fortified terrain. Rumors were leaked to neutral governments, keeping the readiness state of the fortress uncertain. To further mislead Allied military intelligence, false reports and accounts of construction materials, weapon production, and troop transports were made. This elaborate deception is considered one of the greatest achievements during the war, although the exact extent of success is disputed. The Förderstadt projects in Germania were ambitious plans devised by Adolf Hitler and his architect Albert Speer. These projects aimed to redesign various cities in Germany. The goal was to transform these cities into representative Führer sites that would reflect Nazi ideology and showcase their power of grandeur. For Berlin, Hitler envisioned monumental buildings, wide boulevards, and enormous Volkshalle that would surpass any existing structure in size and splendor. The Germania project involved demolishing existing structures and constructing new ones. This was also an extensive urban renewal project aimed at replacing a significant part of Berlin with monumental buildings and wide boulevards. Of course, due to the outbreak of World War II and the subsequent decline of the Nazi regime, many of these plans were never fully realized. Wellsburg Castle, located in northwestern Germany, has a long history shrouded in mystery. Once a pseudo-religious retreat for Hitler's SS, this castle has captured the imagination since 1945. Its crypt, filled with echoes and enigmatic occult symbols, had led to tales of pagan ceremonies conducted by the Brotherhood. Originally built in the 17th century as a triangular structure, this castle underwent a transformation in the 1930s, under the direction of Heinrich Himmler. Thousands of forced laborers toiled to bring Himmler's bizarre blueprint to life. Inside the castle's dark crypt, you'll find 12 stones that surround the walls, with a gas pipe in the center, intended to feed an eternal flame. Going upstairs, the circular hall of SS generals revealed an occult symbol known as the Black Sun, embedded in the marble floor. Standing in the center, your voice is amplified so intensely that it takes on a disturbing, almost extraterrestrial quality, as it echoes through the vaulted room. In 2021, a group of historical researchers in Poland suggested there might be Nazi tunnels hidden in an ancient volcano, potentially harboring top-secret Gestapo documents. The Association of Lovers of Upper Lusatia claims to have found a blueprint for these tunnels in the local archive in Lublin, a town in southern Poland. Despite numerous attempts to explore the tunnels, only a few shafts leading down into the dormant volcano have been accessible, leaving many parts unreachable. The researchers note that the sketch of the tunnels in the archive depicts them as an air raid shelter, but their dimensions of 10 by 10 feet or 3 by 3 meters significantly differ from the usual size of air raid shelters, which are typically 63 by 71 inches or 1.6 by 1.8 meters. This difference, along with the height and width of the tunnels, suggests they might have been intended for storage purposes. The possibility of the existence of the Krakow Gestapo archive containing valuable documents stems from the testimony of former Gestapo officer Kurt Heidenmayer. He claimed that the documents were brought to a nearby town, which were on the orders of Hans Frank, the governor of occupied Poland at the time, where they were partially destroyed. However, the researchers suggest that some of these documents actually ended up in Lublin, about 10 miles or 17 kilometers away, hidden in the volcano. Why they transported the archive so far only to burn it remains a mystery. What hidden Nazi secrets fascinates you the most? Let us know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos we've made, click one on the screen or take a look at the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.